You are now joining the meeting.
Meeting recorded. Okay, very good.
This meeting is being recorded and/or transcribed.
Okay, well, we seem to be all here. At least we have a quorum. I will go ahead and call to order the November meeting of the Oxford Planning Commission. Commissioners, you have a copy of the agenda before you. Excuse me, I'm a little under the weather. Are there any changes to be made to the current November agenda?
To my knowledge, no.
Okay. Make sure. Hearing none, I'm going to entertain a motion. Commissioner Freeman, do you have a motion on the agenda?
I move approval of tonight's agenda.
Commissioner Murphy, is there a second?
Yes, second.
Commissioner Riddell I'll give you a chance, Judy.
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Freeman, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Commissioner King?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Thank you. The agenda is approved as stated. The minutes from the October 12th, 2020 meeting. My understanding, Bill, just before we get to that there are some typos mainly, but not in substance, that you found. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You'll be getting those to Ben and Robert, but in general, if there are any substantive changes and revisions to be made to the October 12th, 2020 minutes, please let me know.
They're not substantive.
Okay. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the October 12th, 2020 minutes with the corrections of typographical errors. Commissioner Freeman, is there a motion?
I move approval.
Commissioner Murphy, is there a second?
I second approval.
Commissioner Freeman, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Commissioner Riddell?
Yes.
Commissioner King?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. The minutes are approved. We had two cases. Ben, they haven't come off of administrative approval, so I assume they're good to go. There were two cases on administrative approval which have been shown on the agenda. So that brings us now to our consent agenda. It's only one case, and it's for 2664 Rebel Hospitality. It's a request for a special exception from the front yard build-to line. Is there any commissioner who wishes to take this out of consent agenda and discuss? Anyone joining us tonight who came to object to public hearing case to object to case 2664? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda. Commissioner Freeman, do you have a motion on the consent agenda?
Yes, I move approval of the agenda. Of the item on the consent agenda.
Commissioner Murphy, is there a second?
I second approval.
Commissioner Freeman, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Commissioner Riddell?
Yes.
Commissioner King?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. The consent agenda is approved, which now brings us to our public hearings. The first public hearing is for case number 274. It's a request for variance from Jerry and Annette Lee for property located at 2224 St. Andrews Circle. Who has that case, Ben?
I do. And actually, the Lees have two requests on the agenda. It'll be the subsequent case, 2675. We'll take this first. I'm sure many of you are aware of where they live, but they're in St. Andrews Circle and Country Club subdivision, or actually they're outside of Country Club subdivision, but they have 1.5 acres. And the Lees have an existing, actually a couple different fences. They have a 4-foot metal fence that's kind of right there by the driveway. On the left-hand side of the driveway, they have a 6-foot fence also that connects to the 4-foot fence. They have an electric fence that goes around the south and the west property lines. And until recently, they had Leland cypress lines that were, cypress trees that were planted along the north property line, but they were also directly underneath the power line or an electrical line that was there. And so as they've continued to mature, they grew up into the power lines, and ultimately they were removed. And so the Lees are trying to figure out some ways to at least secure their property. They've been battling issues with deer of late, and or actually for several years, according to Mr. and Mrs. Lee. And so as a result, they're requesting a 2-foot fence height variance to allow them to install a 6-foot metal fence, very similar to the style of the ornamental fence that's existing by the driveway. And this is going to run along that north property line. Inside your packet, you'll see kind of where they intend this to be located. It doesn't go all the way up to the back of the property, but it comes up a pretty good ways. So that's what their request is in this case, and we are recommending approval of this. Brian, you're on mute. I'm sorry.
All right, I'll just leave it off mute. All right, I'm trying to get to spare you the going back over that detail.
Sure.
You want to go ahead and describe the gate?
You bet. Absolutely. It's this is actually a fairly unique request for a gate. We don't get them that often for a single residence. Usually it's part of a development or something. So as part of this, what they're requesting is, because they're actually having, according to Mr. Lee, they're having issues with deer actually walking up the driveway. They're coming in from the north property line. So they would like the ability to have it's not an electric gate. It's just going to be it's just going to be a 6 to 7, maybe 8-foot gate that is manually operated. There's no electric going to it. They'll just open and close it at nighttime, keep it open through the day, unless they go out of town. I know Commissioner Freeman did ask me that question about whether or not they were going to put a lock on it, or if they were, what happens when they go out of town. So they'll probably keep it closed, but there is not a lock. They don't intend to lock it. They just intend to keep it closed during the evening hours. I've listed all of the requirements for the special exception for a gate, and how this request actually complies with those provisions. And in most instances, this request complies. There are a few that don't necessarily apply because it's not mechanical, so it doesn't have a knockbox as the fire department would require. I did speak with the fire department. They're okay with the request so long as it doesn't prevent or restrict the width of the driveway than what's there. Mr. Mr. and Mrs. Lee are aware of that, and they're fine. So they're fine with that requirement. So I did recommend approval of this request, given this particular instance, with a single condition that because we don't have an actual design, they're going to work to get that design prior to the issuance of any permits for the gate, but the final design, specifications, and location be provided to the planning department just to verify that everything's fine.
Thank you, Ben. And
You bet.
Commissioner, I know you have the agenda before you, and that's part of 2675, which we'll just follow one after the other. The first, any discussion regarding the variance request in 2674?
Chairman, I have a question. Are the applicants here? Yeah. Okay.
I couldn't understand you. You can't hear good at all.
Okay.
I'm Miss Lee, so I may as well recommend this. He can't hear.
Okay. I just wanted to see if you're available to talk. My question actually right now is for Ben, which is would this, I mean, I know we don't, precedent doesn't mean everything, but would this open us up to having fences across everyone's driveway where there's deer? Because deer are all over town. But I mean, this is just we'll give you a chance to speak in a second. This is just for Ben. Or am I reading that wrong? Ben?
Can you hear me, Marvin?
Yeah. What's unique about this?
I think that what's unique about this is, as it was explained to me, the real issue is they're experiencing deer that are actually walking up their driveway, Marvin, and so they do have areas where they have fencing, and they have the vegetative buffer along the north property line, and then they had to take that down, and it sounds like that was actually a pretty good method to restrict deer from coming in. I don't think they had many issues there, but having the fence there, I think that will certainly help provide some sort of a barrier. But it seemed to me that their real issue was actually deer walking up the driveway, and I think Mr. Lee could speak to that a little bit better. Is it possible that people come forward? Yes, I think so. Although I do think it's certainly a unique circumstance that they've been dealing with it sounds like for quite some time now.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion? Any questions for the applicants? I understand they're in the building, Marvin?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I assume, hearing none, that there are no further discussions or questions for the staff or applicants. Then I will entertain a motion on 2674, which is the request for variances to height of the fence. Excuse me. Is there a motion on 2674, Commissioner Freeman?
Yes, I would recommend approval of the requested fence height variance in item 2774.
2674.
2674, excuse me.
Commissioner Murphy, is there a second?
I would second approval of 2674.
All right. Commissioner Freeman, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Commissioner Riddell?
Yes.
Commissioner King?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. The variance is passed, which brings us now to the gate and the installation of the gate, which has been described in 2675. Is there any further discussion needed on this issue? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on 2675. Commissioner Freeman, do you have a motion?
Yes, I'd move approval with the one staff condition.
I have a motion to approve with the staff condition regarding the design. Commissioner Murphy, is there a second?
Yes, I would second approval, subject to staff.
Thank you. Commissioner Freeman, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Commissioner Riddell?
Yes.
Commissioner King?
No.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. It passes with one objection from Commissioner King. That brings us now.
Got it.
That brings us now to 2676, which is the public hearing for Freddie Bagley. It's a request for variance from 2.6.3 front yard build-to line minimum property located at 126 Layton Drive.
I'll take this one also, Brian.
Okay.
So the property measures about 14,000 square feet, and it's a lot that's located along Layton Road, and it's in the Stone subdivision. Layton's dead-end street. It contains approximately 30 residents. There are some topography challenges as this property slopes pretty significantly from Layton towards the northeast corner of the property. So kind of away from the road, away from Layton Road. And the applicant has an option to purchase this property, and they do intend to demolish the existing structure, and they're proposing to construct a new one, as you see in the staff report. In the application, it notes that the property zone traditional state residential, and that this lot does not conform to the minimum lot size for the district. And while this is true, we do want to note that during the comprehensive rezoning process for Vision 2037, this subdivision and a couple other subdivisions nearby, they were certainly concerned about the zoning of the property where we had prescribed suburban residential. And as a result of those concerns, we did change the zoning to estate residential, or actually traditional estate residential for this neighborhood. So, we tried to make sure that people, or at least convey that, the district regulations, the standards for the lot setbacks and lot coverage and lot size and things like that are a little bit more restrictive in traditional estate residential. So I just want to make that point of clarification because the application notes it. As previously stated, the applicant has purchased the property with the intent to demolish the existing structure. Due to the topography, the applicant is requesting the ability to build closer to the property line. The current zoning requires that a residence is not constructed closer than 40 feet from the front of the property line, and then there's no limit to how far back that they can go, with the exception of the rear setback. In this instance, the applicant is requesting a 20-foot 6-inch front yard build-to line variance. So that way the actual structure, the new structure, would be located about 19 feet 6 inches from the property line. And it should be noted that the existing structure is also located within the front build-to line minimum. It's a little bit farther back, but it's not nearly as close to the Layton, but it's still within that build-to line. Our recommendation is due to the slope and the topography challenges of this site along, at least away from Layton Road. We do recommend approval of the requested variance with the following condition, that the approval is for the variance as submitted. Looks like Corey Auger is here on behalf of the applicant, if you have any questions.
Any questions for the staff or the applicant? Thank you. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on 2676, the request for variance from the front build-to line. Commissioner Freeman, is there a motion on
Approval of item 2676.
All right, There's a motion to approve. Is there a second? Commissioner Murphy?
Yes, I'll second approval.
Commissioner Freeman, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Commissioner Riddell?
Yes.
Commissioner King?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. The motion passes. Next is, thank you. Next is 2677. It's, excuse me, AFCO Capital. It's a request for final plat approval for P Ridge subdivision, property located at 325 County Road 321.
All right, and I got this one. So the applicant is requesting approval of final plat for detached residential subdivision of 8 lots called P Ridge subdivision. The property was granted preliminary plat approval by the Planning Commission in July 2017. It will be about 2.5 acres, and it's going to be the last lot inside of city limits on the south side of P Ridge Road. All of the lots are between 7,200 and about 11,000 square feet within the lot size recommendations for, or regulations for suburban residential zoning. About 1 acre is dedicated to stormwater detention and will be owned and maintained by the 8 property owners. Tree mitigation requirements for this subdivision will include adding 37 trees of 2-inch caliper. Kind of the highlights from the engineering comments is that the sidewalks for this will be constructed as the homes are built. Bond is going to be held by the city until the sidewalk is completed. And for stormwater management, final stormwater certification needs to be completed before 75% of the lots are built out, and that'll be enforced by restriction on the sale of water taps. Staff recommends approval of the final plat with the 5 conditions stated below.
Thank you, Robert. Any questions on 2677? Hearing none, I'm going to entertain a motion on the request for final plat approval in 2677. Commissioner Freeman, is there a motion?
I'd move approval with the 5 conditions stated by the staff.
There's a motion to approve with the conditions stated. Is there a second, Commissioner Murphy?
A second, subject to staff requirements, recommendations.
Commissioner Freeman, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Commissioner Riddell?
Yes.
Commissioner King?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Final plat is approved. This brings us now to 2678. It's Andrew Calicut. It's a variance from the front yard build-to line for Oxford Farms Memory Care, property located on South Lamar Boulevard.
Okay, I got this one as well. The subject property is located on about 4.5 acres in the Oxford Farms development. It's on the west side of South Lamar, south of Farmview Drive. The applicant is proposing to construct a memory care facility that will work in conjunction with an already approved senior living facility. The site plan is currently under review for the property, and the Planning Commission approved special exceptions for the use and special exceptions for a single-story building at a TNB in October's meeting. The current request is for a variance from the maximum build-to line in the TNB district of about 18 feet. There is a porte cochere, a covered entrance and driveway at the front of the proposed building with a turnaround area, which kind of forces the building to be a little bit located a little bit further back from the line. Additionally, because of the building is over 30 feet in height, fire department code dictates that a fire apparatus access road of at least 26 feet in width is required. That 26 feet plus the covered entrance together push the proposed building outside of the required setback line. Additionally, the building to the south is going to be approximately on the same setback line. Given the circumstances of the site, the need for convenient access to the building for the intended residents, and the need for this use in the community, staff recommends approval of the variance related to the required build-to line maximum for Oxford Farms memory care.
Thank you. Any discussion from the commission?
Yeah, Joseph Murphy. Quick question, not necessarily specific to this, but more of a general question. This statement about the fire access lane requirement, if we have a building in excess of 30 feet, and everybody else may know the answer, but I don't. This is just now brought up about this. Wouldn't this have needed to be addressed earlier than today about this fire access road? Fortunately, for this case, we have an easy solution. But what if that was not the case? What would have happened? Anybody? Dan, probably. Anybody that knows the answer to that, I was just curious to know.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Joseph, I think, I think in this instance and other instances, we would have caught that as it's going through the site plan review, which I think is something that we did do here, and Robert can, confirm that, but, it is a requirement, and it's, you don't often tease these out until you're going through that site plan review when the fire department has an opportunity to take a look at it. It also, is, I think building height also plays a role in them requiring that fire apparatus access road. And then I also think, if I remember right, the porte-cochere and having the ability for a turnaround, maybe, I think also played a factor into this circumstance. I see Robert nodding, so he can weigh in that. So I think this is part of the process, Joseph. I think we've caught it, going through this process, and I think that's why we have it there to catch these things.
In a perfect world, you'd probably wanted to get it on the front end, if I understand correctly, Ben, correct?
You bet, absolutely. We want to catch them on the front end, and and I think that they're trying to achieve some rhythm here with the other buildings that are already there. So, I get that. Since I think some of those buildings were already constructed under the old land development code, and now there's a new land development code. So we're trying to work with them on some of that consistency.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Thank you, Joseph. Any further discussion needed? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on 2679. Commissioner Freeman, is there a motion?
Is it 2679 or 78?
Hold on, let me make sure I may be reading. It is 2678, you're correct, thank you.
I would move approval of item 2678.
2678, there's a motion to approve. Commissioner Murphy, is there a second?
Second approval, yes.
Commissioner Freeman, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Commissioner Riddell?
Yes.
Commissioner King?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. 2678 passes. Which now brings us to 2679, which is an entirely different case. And it's a request for final plat approval, Oxford Farms Phase 7. Great.
Yes, this is also in Oxford Farms, but to the north. The property for this request is located north of Oxford Way at the Farmview Road intersection, and the property is approximately 17.81 acres. There's several cases that have been heard by the Planning Commission related to this site. An administrative approval for a grading permit was approved, preliminary and final plat approval, and a site plan approval for 108 dwelling units with a mix of duplexes, attached townhomes, and detached dwellings. The project was referred to as the Cottages at Oxford Farms when it received site plan approval in September 2020, but is now being referred to as Stillwater. The applicant is requesting a minor plat amendment. The plat amendment includes modifications to water and sewer easements and a revision to the east boundary line. There will be 117 trees mitigated on this site and integrated into the landscape design. Thus, tree mitigation is not required. As mentioned at the cottage's approval, a blue line stream runs along northern portions of the site, and the applicant is required to maintain a 50-foot wide unbroken vegetation buffer. The proposal is considered a residential common interest development and meets the additional standards per Land Development Code. Covenants, staff received a copy of the covenants on September 9th for Stillwater. Staff recommends approval of the amended plat for Oxford Farms Phase 7 with the 3 conditions stated in the report.
Thank you, Gray. Any discussion from the members of the commission?
Yes, this is Commissioner Freeman. The question that apparently we have some open technical comments about some of the easements and detention ponds, and the time the report was written, they weren't finished. Are we leaving those open before they go to the Board of Aldermen, or where does that stand, Gray?
The applicant's engineers here as well. Joey Moore, the applicant's engineer, is saying that they can fix those before going to the Board of Aldermen.
And Bill, I'll chime in. I think condition number 3 states that before this can be heard by the Board of Aldermen, any of those technical changes must be completed.
Yeah.
Okay, so staff is happy with this, is what you're telling me, or will be happy before it gets to the Board of Aldermen?
It has to be approved by engineering.
Yeah, Marvin's correct.
Rihanna is about to speak.
Hi, this is Rihanna. So we have installed that condition that all of our technical changes are made before it goes to the board, so that we've got just one more point to correct it before it is heard, and I think they are minor enough that they can be corrected easily. So we are, with this condition, it can move forward.
Thank you, Rihanna. Go ahead.
Commissioner Murphy, yes, question. Well, two questions. We're going to have some sewer mains that are going to be private. Am I reading this right? Is that going to be maintained by the neighborhood, or how is this going to work? And how big are these sewer mains that the neighborhood is going to be maintaining?
This is an 8-inch sewer main, and it is going to be maintained by the condo association apartments, by the owner of that property. It's fairly common that anytime you've got private sewer mains that are not serving more than one property, those are privately owned, so that it'll just be part of their maintenance the same way they maintain the parking lot and other features. I believe it's an 8-inch main. Joey can correct me on that side.
He's nodding that that's correct.
Okay. The other, I don't think that's a good idea, but the other question I've got is that's not, I don't think that's what we're discussing today, so I'll move on. But approval is for the plat as submitted with any required modifications. That's the recommendation. That's pretty open-ended. As an attorney, I don't much care for that language. Any required modifications, I'm not sure what we're approving today. If we can just do anything we want, modify it later. If there's any restrictions that I'm not aware of, please speak up. That's too open-ended for me to approve that, to be frank.
I can appreciate that. I think Joey can speak to it some. Staff's intent is that we've requested specific changes, technical changes in our comments as we're going through our site plan review process. We've given them specific things that we want to be fixed or noted differently, and so they do have a specific set of items to go by. Without listing all of those in a report, I'm not sure how to indicate to y'all what those are, and I appreciate the fact that it does appear to be very open-ended. I'm not sure what the resolution to that is. Joey may have an idea, or someone else may have a better idea. But we do consider ourselves bound basically by the comments as we're going through these things.
Well, I guess presumably the applicant could, if engineering had a technical modification to make and the applicant didn't want to do it, presumably the applicant could not do it or appeal. I mean, I don't know if does it have to be binding? I don't know. I mean, Paul's coming up to speak. We'll get some clarity here.
So I think as I understand the question, what Joseph was asking about was condition number 2, approval for the plat is submitted with any required modifications. And Rihanna, I think, was saying that condition number 3 that says any technical changes required by engineering staff will be repeated, that the second part of the third condition was what the second part of the second condition was referring to. So if that needs to be more clear, condition 2 can always say approval is for the plat is submitted with any technical changes required by the engineering staff. So it's saying the same thing. And Joey's already said that they can do that, so I don't see that as a problem.
I'll clear something up too.
And Joey's walking up here.
And just to make everybody feel a little bit better, the only comment we have left is there's a dispute over how we're going to put the drainage pipe that's leaving the detention pond on site. That's on the engineering plans. That will not affect the plat whatsoever. So the plat, as we're presenting it, I believe is correct. What Rihanna's wanting is something changed on the engineering plans, which is not reflected on the plat. It's two separate things. So we believe the plat is good. We'll have to go back and fix the engineering comment on the site plan that she's wanting.
I think everything sounds good. It's all been documented now in the minutes, and so I think everything will be just fine. We could put in this number 2. Of course, again, since we talked about it, I think it's okay. But we could put in there approval for the plat as submitted with the stated or documented changes, engineering changes. I think period. I think that's really all we'd have to put. Just specify what modifications we're talking about. That's really the only point that I was making. So I'm good with it as long as we're documented and all clear on what modifications we're talking about.
I agree. Thanks, Joseph. My understanding is that it would be, and of course anybody can make this motion, but that it would be for the for as submitted, or for the final plat as submitted, with that wrinkle that the engineering comments, of course, would be discussed at a later date, which may not be. My understanding from Joey is that that's not part of the final plat anyway. So regardless, I will, if there's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion on 2679, given that we have discussed the particulars. Is there a motion, Commissioner Freeman?
Yes, I move approval of item 2679 based on the discussion that we've had.
All right. And of course, any minutes will reflect our discussions and be part of the record. Is there a second? Commissioner Murphy, can you second that?
Yes, I will second.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Freeman, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Commissioner Riddell?
Yes.
Commissioner King?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. This brings us now to case number 2680, which is the public hearing J.W. McCurdy for extension of city utilities. that includes the preliminary and final plat approval for Briarwood subdivision Phase 2B, property located at 470 County Road 101.
Okay, so the Briarwood subdivision is located outside city limits on County Road 101, north of Industrial Park Road. The extension of city utilities to the first phase of Briarwood subdivision was approved in December of 2017. It was about 22 acres and 69 lots in that approval. Phase 2A was approved in July of 2019. That was 5.5 acres and 25 lots. And so this third phase coming forward is about 5.5 acres and 23 lots. The submitted plans meet all the requirements for plat approval. A stamped and recorded copy of the subdivision covenants for this phase is needed. Engineering comments, Rihanna has provided a very nice history of essentially the subdivision and the provision of water and sewer. There's an outstanding development agreement between the developer and the Board of Aldermen. We have a condition that this approval will be contingent on the Board of Aldermen entering into that development agreement for an additional 78 lots of sewer provision. Also, yeah. The recommendation is for approval of utility service to Phase 2B of Briarwood with 4 conditions stated below. And Rihanna is on the line for technical questions on that.
Are there any questions from the commission or the staff?
Is it fair to summarize this that the city's limited on capacity for treatment and the developer is going to, in effect, pay for the enough improvements to supply that additional needed capacity? And that's the agreement that will have to be approved by the Board of Aldermen to, in effect, ratify our approval tonight?
Yes, Bill, that is an excellent summary. There's also, in part of that agreement, there's going to be some relief from the sewer tap fees. That'll be considered as part of the agreement, but that is exactly where we are. And just to update you, we are still working on the final, the agreement language, and that's being spearheaded through Bart Robinson's office. So I don't have all of the details of it, but it is moving forward still.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on case number 2680 regarding the Briarwood subdivision, with the understanding of the comments made and the conditions on the application. Commissioner Freeman, is there a motion?
I would move approval as submitted in the agenda.
There's a motion to approve as submitted. Is there a second, Commissioner Murphy?
I would second approval subject to these staff requirements.
There is a motion and a second. Commissioner Freeman, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Commissioner Riddell?
Yes.
Commissioner King?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. It is passed as a submitted.
Can I ask Joseph Murphy, quick, real fast? I just want to make sure the record's clear. And it's a technicality, I know, but I'm sorry. That when we just posted it up for a vote, it was as submitted. Does that include the recommendations here at the bottom, or? Okay, I want to make sure.
Yes.
Thank you.
All conditions of the staff are basically it's as submitted to us, I guess, not as submitted to the staff. The next case is another extension for city utilities in case number 2681 regarding Oakmont subdivision phase 3. Same location at 470 County Road 101.
Okay, and this one is right next to Briarwood. The preliminary plat for Oakmont subdivision was approved in April of 2017, and that was for about 40.5 acres with 108 lots. Since that point in time, final plats for phases 1, 2, 4, and 5 have received final approval for extension of utilities. This is for phase 3, consisting of 26 lots. Again, submitted plans meet all the requirements. We still need a stamped and recorded copy of the subdivision covenants for this phase. Same stuff about water and sewer, or sewer provision as before. Again, Rihanna has a great summary of the history of the subdivision. We recommend approval of utility service to phase 3 of Oakmont with the conditions noted below, all 4 of those.
Any discussion on 2681? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on 2681. Commissioner Freeman, do you have a motion?
I would move approval on 2681 with the 4 conditions shown in the agenda.
Is there a second, Commissioner Murphy?
A second.
There's a second. Commissioner Freeman, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Commissioner Riddell?
Yes.
Commissioner King?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. It is approved. Now,
hey, Brian, this is Paul.
Yes, Paul.
Real quick,
Hey.
this has no bearing on the merits of y'all's considerations of Briarwood or Oakmont, but I would like the minutes to reflect and for everybody to be aware that because of the way the school district lines are drawn in that part of the county, different phases of both of those subdivisions may be in different school districts. That's not something the city has control over, but I just want it to reflect anybody who ever sees these minutes for purposes of subdivision approval because they're looking to buy a lot out there should check with the school district that they think these lots are in and check with the tax assessor's office to see how that lot is taxed.
That's a good point.
Paul, I'm glad you said that because I was actually wondering, is that still the case out there?
Yeah, we've looked at it, and there are a few of those lots that the school district lines actually go through the middle of, and so the tax assessor's office has had to individually pick those out. So for anybody who's ever listening, don't take anybody's word for it. You need to go check the tax maps.
Thank you, Paul. The minutes will reflect that discussion. And now this brings us to 2682, which is Johnny Barrett filing a request for preliminary and final plat approval for First National Bank Parkway Branch subdivision for property located at George Patterson Parkway.
I've got this one, Brian. So the property is about 1.5 acres. It's located on George Patterson Parkway, and it's actually it's on the east side of PPP, as we like to call it, and it's just north of the Shell service station, which is nearing the end of its construction phase. The applicant is proposing a 1-lot subdivision that will be developed into 2 phases with as part of the first phase, a 2-story F&B bank is being proposed with drive-through lanes and in phase 1, and then in the second phase, a building will be constructed directly to the east of the bank with commercial space. The site plan for the bank is currently under review with the Site Plan Review Committee, and we anticipate that coming forward here in the very near future. Staff did have a pre-development meeting with Mr. Barrett on behalf of the bank and Williams Engineering, and during that meeting, it was discovered that the property was already purchased by FNB without being subdivided, as it's required by the Land Development Code. Staff was concerned with the location of the access, especially after it was expressed by the Mayor and Board of Aldermen during the zoning process for these newly annexed areas of Oxford, of the need to manage the quantity and the locations, the access to development along Georgia G. Patterson Parkway. And it's important to note that the Land Development Code encourages interconnectivity to adjacent properties through cross-access easements. And that kind of helps eliminate, some of the issues that we see on Jackson Avenue where you have curb cut, and you can't go from one business to the next business. We do believe that it's important in this and future instances for safety reasons for development to identify the locations of cross-access easements to adjacent properties and indicate them on the plat. The plat does indicate a cross-access easement along the northern portion of the site. Since the property to the north is not developed yet, it's going to be easier to get that cross-access and that connectivity, maybe not necessarily to the development to the south where the gas station is, although we're optimistic that we might be able to create that connectivity, because I think that would be good for people to be able to go from the gas station to the bank. So engineering did provide comments related to the water and sewer and utilities, also to traffic and access, especially as we discussed the access just a moment ago. Sidewalks, there is existing sidewalks that are there, and if they're disturbed, then it'll be the responsibility of the contractor to repair them, and to stormwater management. And engineering has no conditions associated with the plat approval. A bond is not required as the infrastructure is in place. Staff recommends approval of the requested one-lot subdivision with the following conditions. Approval by the Mayor and Board of Aldermen is required, and then prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy, a stamped recorded copy of covenants is required. So they have to provide those to the planning department. And I suspect that Joey Moore is in the room and will be able to answer any questions that you have for the engineer.
Hey, Ben.
Are there any questions for the staff or for Joey?
Yeah, Ben, I do have one quick question for you. In terms of these, as things go up, PPP and the cross-access easements that we're talking about here, how does that work? You have two property owners. Do they both have to agree to it, or is that just simply part of the plat approval? Is that they are connected? How does that play out as things move down Patterson Parkway?
Yeah, I think it's a couple ways, Duncan. As part of this, we've already had discussions with Jeff Williams, who knows the property owner of the other undeveloped property to the north, and so he's already had discussions with, I believe it's Mr. Davis, already had initial conversations with him about coming up with a plan for not only for the access points along Patterson Parkway, but also for that interconnectivity between, if it's subdivided into the future or if there's a larger development that's created. But then I also think that you're right that it would also be indicated as part of the plats as they come through, so that way, people are aware, and we identify ideal locations for those easements, to be placed.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any additional comments or questions?
Joseph Murphy. Man, I'm sorry, guys. Quick question. Stormwater management. I know we have a temporary plan in place, but this sentence of permanent stormwater management facility will be designed as part of a future site plan. Are we going to be looking at that whenever it does? We're going to have another chance to look at this permanent stormwater management, or is that what we're talking about right now? And if so, I would ask that it be one of these requirements, that we have a permanent that we honor this sentence up here underneath the stormwater management paragraph. If we're going to decide later, that's fine, but that's my question. Are we about to approve it now, or are we going to have a chance to look at it later?
The stormwater management plan will be approved with the site plan itself. Ben will have to speak if that site plan is coming to the Planning Commission as an administrative approval or as a site plan. Either way, you would see the information on it in the future. But we are, with commercial plats, a lot of times you don't see the stormwater until the design is there, until the plat is designed, because you don't know exactly what's going there. These are coming in very close together, so engineering is currently reviewing the site plan for the commercial that's coming, but it's not unusual to have a commercial plat that we don't know what the stormwater is going to look like in the future. I don't know if I'm answering your question or not, but.
That is very good. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on 2682. Commissioner Freeman, do you have a motion?
I would move approval of item 2682 with the 2 conditions from staff as shown on the agenda.
Thank you. Commissioner Murphy, is there a second?
I'll second approval.
Commissioner Freeman, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Commissioner Riddell?
Yes.
Commissioner King?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. It is approved, 2682. The next item is 2683. It's been postponed, which brings us to 2684. And it is a final plat approval for the Heights phases 7 and 8, property located on Buddy East Parkway.
Thanks, Brian. The applicant is seeking a final plat for the Heights phases 7 and 8, which includes a total of 30 single-family lots with 3 common areas. A preliminary plat, that was case 2481 with 12 phases and 168 lots, was approved by the Mayor and Board of Aldermen on June 18th of 2019. The approved preliminary plat for the Heights phases 7 and 8 indicated a total of 33 lots, 16 in phase 7, 17 in phase 8. However, the final plat indicates 3 fewer lots. Case 2487, a variance to the setback requirements and a special exception for patio homes, was also granted by the Planning Commission in May of 2019. The lots proposed in this final plat comply with all the technical standards of the Land Development Code. It is important to note that both of these phases are not located within the Oxford Commons PUD. However, the area was included in the tree mitigation variance that was granted by the Planning Commission in 2016. Therefore, a conservation easement of 14% of the entire area is required, and it has been provided. Engineering did provide some additional comments that the construction plans were provided with the preliminary plat for the Heights phases 6 through 16 and 18. And the preliminary plat approval granted permission for the construction of the infrastructure, such as water, sewer, and streets. Since that time, the majority of the infrastructure has been installed, and the owner has requested a final inspection so that the city can accept the infrastructure. Stormwater management is provided for phases 7 and 8 through an existing detention pond located to the west of phase 7 in what is known as the Heights phase 3. Primrose Drive and Sycamore Drive are currently dead-end streets, but are intended to extend to the north connection to the rest of the Heights subdivision. At the time of the preliminary plat approval, it was not known what phases would be built first. Accordingly, there was no plan shown for the required temporary turnaround at the end of the road until it can be extended. Due to the topography of the site, temporary turnarounds were not constructed. This is not an issue for the final plat approval, as there is only one lot on each side of these roads that will require access. An additional bond will be required for these areas, however. The grading plan provided with the final plat, it includes approximate 3-to-1 slopes at the edges of phase 7 and 8 that do not match the flatter grading shown in the preliminary plat. The phase lines are not shown all the sheets of the construction plan, so it's difficult to tell where these phase boundaries are with respect to the grading, but staff notes for future reference that the grading extending beyond the elevation 450 is not approved for the extensions of the roadway. Engineering recommended approval with the conditions noted below. And all of staff recommended approval with the following conditions. Approval of the heights phases 7 and 8 by the Mayor and Board of Aldermen is required. A copy of the covenants of the subdivision are to be submitted to the planning department prior to permitting, and bonds will be required for all public infrastructure if the city has not accepted maintenance of that infrastructure at the time of the final plat approval by the board. Additional bonds will be required for the portions of Primrose Drive and Sycamore Drive that have not been fully constructed to the phase boundary. And lastly, the phase lines must be shown on the plat before the request of the final plat approval is heard by the Mayor and Board of Aldermen.
Any questions?
Yes, this is Bill Freeman. Ben, what's the significance of that item 4 on the phase lines?
Rihanna, do you care to comment on that?
I guess I'm just asking why it matters.
Well, the reason that I've asked for it to be on there is so that we know in the future where these phases were, so we can track them. I don't know when these are sold that any of these phases will be noted. Our bonds note the phases on them, so we'll get a bond and it'll either say phase 7 or phase 8, and so we have a lot of information tied back to the phases. So I would just like for the plat to reflect, even particularly because it's titled as phase 7 and 8. We've got a lot of problems in the preserve and the heights. They have a couple of phases that were built. They were platted as one phase and then built in different construction phases, and it gets confusing when you're going back in history trying to look and see what's going on when you cannot tell what was in each individual phase.
Great, thanks, that helps me.
Thank you, Rihanna. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on 2684. Commissioner Freeman, is there a motion?
Yes, I'd move approval of item 2684 with the 4 conditions as shown by staff in the agenda.
I have a motion to approve with the conditions stated. Is there a second? Commissioner Murphy?
Second approval.
There is a motion and a second. Commissioner Freeman, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Commissioner Riddell?
Yes.
Commissioner King?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. It is approved, which brings us to our, at least according to the agenda that we approved, our final case is 2685. It's Phase 1 Limited. It's requesting a preliminary and final plat approval for Porch View subdivision, property located at 510 and 522 North 15th Street.
Yes, sir. The subject property is located on the east side of North 15th Street, north of Jefferson Avenue. The property measures approximately just a little over an acre. The northwest corner of the parcel is flat, open, and contains an existing single-story house. The remainder of the parcel is covered with trees. The applicant is proposing a three-lot, single-family residential subdivision. The 3 lots will take vehicular access from North 15th. This property is located within the Neighborhood Conservation Overlay and within the Jefferson-Madison Historic District. The lots proposed range from 0.37 to 0.39 of an acre and exceed the lot size minimum required in the traditional suburban residential zoning district of 7,500 square feet. The dwelling unit density proposed is notably less than the maximum allowed in the zoning district of 6 dwelling units per acre. Tree mitigation is applicable to any subdivision of 2 or more lots. The applicant has not provided a tree survey at this time, but they're currently working on a survey. The demolition of the existing single-story house will require approval by the Historic Preservation Commission. Related to engineering, Construction plans and stormwater management plans are under review at the time of this report. The subdivision includes a portion of what was formerly an unopened portion of Adams Avenue. The Board of Aldermen made a finding at the October 6, 2020 meeting that this unopened street was not needed for municipal purposes and approved the sale of this property. The finding was made in consideration of the topography of the unopened street, which included a ditch, and that there is no possibility of the road being extended to North 16th due to condominium development to the east. Related to the stormwater management, the review of the pond is currently under consideration, and there will be minor modifications to the size, but staff does not see any issues with that. Staff recommends approval of the preliminary and final plat for Porch View subdivision with the 6 conditions stated in the report.
Any questions for staff or discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on 2685. Commissioner Freeman, is there a motion?
Yes, I move approval for item 2685 with the 6 conditions shown by staff in the agenda.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Commissioner Murphy?
Yes, I second.
There's a motion and a second. Commissioner Freeman, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Commissioner Riddell?
Yes.
Commissioner King?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. 2685 is passed. That brings us to the end of our agenda, folks. I will quickly entertain a motion to adjourn if Commissioner Freeman has one.
Hey, Brian, can I interrupt just real quick? I just want to make one quick announcement, if that's all right.
Hold on. I was making somebody's making a motion to adjourn. You're going to interrupt? Go ahead.
Real quick. It'll be brief. I just want to let y'all know that I think a few of you have attended the Mississippi chapter of American Planning Association's fall conference. Due to COVID, we've delayed it, and we're actually going to hold it virtually. That'll be in December, I think the 7th through the 11th or 12th. We are having a planning commissioner training, and if there are any commissioners that would be interested in participating in that, it's put on by the Stennis Institute. They do a really good job. I think a few of you have attended that in the past, so I would love for y'all to participate in that if that's something that you wish to do, and we'll cover your cost of attendance. And then you can also enjoy the remainder of the sessions for the entire week. So if that's something that you're interested in, just get in touch with us, and we'll make sure that takes place.
Thank you, Ben.
You bet.
Any further discussions needed from the commissioners? All right. I apologize for the swiftness of going through the agenda, but I'm under the weather and just want to get out of here. Commissioner Freeman, do you have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, I move that we adjourn and that you feel better.
Well, thank you. There's a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Murphy, is there a second?
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Commissioner Freeman, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Riddell?
Yes.
Commissioner King?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. We are adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate your attendance, and we will see you.